Money can buy almost anything, but it can't buy back time. That truth haunted me every night as I paced the marble floors of my penthouse, the city lights twinkling like distant stars 40 stories below. Forbes listed me among the 50 wealthiest people alive, but in my most private moments, I felt like the poorest man on earth. The day everything changed started like any other. I'd just returned from Singapore, closing a deal worth billions, yet feeling that familiar emptiness as the elevator ascended to my private floor. 3 years had passed since Caroline's death, leaving me alone to raise our triplets, 3 perfect 5-year-olds who barely knew their father. Mr. Reynolds, welcome home. Jenkins, my house manager, greeted me with practiced precision. The children are with the new maid. Ms. Alvarez started Monday. The new one? What happened to Mrs. Peters? I asked, setting down my briefcase. She retired last week, sir. As discussed in the emails. Emails? Right. One of the 1,000 messages I'd skimmed between conference calls. I vaguely recalled approving a hire. And the children? Doing well, sir. Though Miss Emma asked when you'd be home every day. The guilt twisted deeper. I'd missed their 5th birthday last month, sending extravagant gifts instead of myself. It had become a pattern, compensating with things instead of time. I'll see them before bed, I promised, though we both knew I'd likely become buried in work within the hour. Later that evening, as I reviewed quarterly projections in my study, I heard it, laughter. Not just any laughter, but the rare, unbridled joy of my children. The sound pulled me from my chair like a magnet, drawing me down the hallway toward the nursery. I stopped at the partially open door, peering through the crack. What I witnessed froze me in place. The nursery had been transformed into something magical. Blankets stretched across furniture created makeshift tents. Battery-operated tea lights twinkled like fireflies. And there, sitting cross-legged on the floor with my 3 children, was a young woman I didn't recognize, presumably Ms. Alvarez, the new maid. But she wasn't cleaning. She wasn't organizing toys or folding laundry. She was telling stories. Not reading from books, but weaving tales with her hands dancing through the air, her voice rising and falling like music. My typically reserved children were completely enthralled. Emma, always shy and quiet, was giggling uncontrollably. Alexander, who'd been diagnosed with selective mutism after his mother died, was actually asking questions. And Christopher, my serious little man who seemed born with a furrowed brow, was sprawled on his stomach, chin propped in his hands, eyes wide with wonder. And then what happened? Emma asked, her voice eager. Well, Ms. Alvarez continued, her accent melodic and warm, the little girl remembered what her grandmother had taught her, that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid but doing what's right anyway. I felt something crack inside me. These were not the children I knew, or rather, these were not the children I'd allowed myself to know. In my presence, they were always quiet, well-behaved, almost too perfect. Here, they were simply kids, messy, curious, alive. I must have made a sound, because suddenly 4 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Daddy! Emma squealed, scrambling to her feet. The young woman, Ms. Alvarez, stood quickly, smoothing her simple dress. Mr. Reynolds, I apologize. I was just... No need, I said, my voice unexpectedly hoarse. Please, continue. She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with my presence. She couldn't have been more than 25, with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and eyes that seemed to hold more wisdom than her years suggested. Sir, I know this isn't in my job description. I finished the cleaning early and the children asked for stories from my homeland. Where are you from? I asked, trying to place her accent. Colombia, sir. My grandmother raised me on these stories. She gestured to the makeshift fort. I can clean this up right away. Alexander, who rarely spoke to anyone, tugged at her dress. Please finish the story, Luna. Luna. So that was her name. What happened next changed everything, but before I tell you that part, I need to explain what I'd lost, and what I was about to find. Because sometimes the most valuable things in life aren't what we chase but what finds us when we least expect it. I didn't know it then, but Luna Alvarez wasn't just a maid. And what she was doing with my children would ultimately save not just them, but me. Before I continue, kindly subscribe to this channel. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of my children, animated, engaged, alive, haunted me. I'd convinced myself they were naturally reserved, that their quietness was simply their personality. It was easier than admitting the truth, they had adjusted to my absence by becoming invisible. Morning came, and instead of heading to the office as planned, I told my assistant to clear my schedule. Jenkins nearly dropped the coffee pot when I announced I'd be staying home. "Is everything all right, sir?" he asked, concern etching his features. "Yes. I just want to spend time with the children today." I found them in the breakfast nook with Luna, who was helping Christopher cut his pancakes while quizzing Emma on simple multiplication. When they saw me, the children immediately straightened, their laughter fading like a radio being turned down. "Good morning," I said awkwardly, unused to being present for this daily ritual. Luna stood quickly. "Mr. Reynolds, I didn't expect you. Would you like me to serve your breakfast in the dining room?" "No, I thought I'd join you all here, if that's all right." The silence that followed was deafening. My own children looked at me like I was a stranger, which, in many ways, I was. I sat down, and Luna, recovering quickly, poured me coffee. The children were just telling me about their science project. Emma has quite the hypothesis about plant growth. Emma stared at her plate, suddenly shy. "It's nothing." "It's not nothing," Luna said gently. "Tell your father." The way she said it, not as a command but as encouragement, made Emma look up. Hesitantly, she described an experiment comparing plant growth under different light conditions. Her eyes grew animated as she spoke, and I realized with a pang that I'd never seen this side of my daughter. "That sounds fascinating," I said when she finished. "Perhaps I could help you set it up." The hope that flashed across her face nearly broke me. After breakfast, Luna tried to excuse herself to continue her duties, but I asked her to stay. "I'd like to see what you do with the children," I explained. "If that's all right." She seemed uncertain but agreed. "We usually have music time after breakfast." Music time, I discovered, wasn't simply playing recordings. Luna brought out a worn guitar case and produced an instrument that had clearly seen better days but was lovingly maintained. "My father's," she explained, catching my gaze. "He taught me before he passed." What happened next was nothing short of magical. Luna began to play, her fingers dancing across the strings with practiced ease. She sang folk songs in Spanish, teaching the children lyrics through repetition. Even Alexander joined in, his voice barely audible but present. Then she did something that stopped my heart. She began singing A Blackbird by the Beatles, Caroline's favorite song, the one she used to sing to the triplets in the womb and as infants. "Where did you learn that song?" I asked when she finished, my voice tight. Luna looked up, her expression apologetic. "Miss Emma requested it. She said her mother used to sing it." I looked at my daughter, who nodded solemnly. "I remember Mommy's voice a little. Luna helps us remember her." That's when I realized what Luna was really doing with my children. She wasn't just entertaining them or educating them. She was healing them. Healing the wounds I'd been too consumed with my own grief to address. Over the next few days, I found reasons to work from home, observing Luna with the children. She had created a routine that balanced learning with play, discipline with freedom. They built science projects, practiced reading by acting out stories, and learned mathematics through cooking. But most remarkably, she talked to them about their mother. Not in sad, hushed tones, but celebrating who Caroline had been. Through Luna's gentle questioning, the children shared fragments of memories I didn't know they had. Luna helped them create a memory jar, where they wrote down or dictated memories of their mother on colorful papers. "It's important they know it's okay to remember her," Luna explained when I found her helping Alexander write on a slip of paper. "That grief isn't something to hide. How do you know so much about this? I asked. Her eyes met mine, something deep and knowing in them. I lost both my parents when I was 7. My grandmother taught me that the people we love never really leave us as long as we keep their memory alive. That evening, after the children were asleep, I invited Luna to my study, not as an employee, but as someone I desperately needed to learn from. Why did you apply for this position? I asked directly. You're clearly overqualified. Your approach with the children, it's not that of a housekeeper. Luna sat across from me, her posture straight but her hands fidgeting slightly in her lap. I have a master's degree in child psychology, she admitted. I specialized in grief counseling for young children. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. You came here specifically for my children. She nodded. When the agency called with this position, I researched your family. I read about Ms. Caroline's accident, about the triplets. I thought perhaps I could help while finishing my doctoral studies in the evenings. So you're not really a maid? I am, she said simply. I clean, I cook, I do everything in my job description. But yes, I also use what I know to help your children process their loss. If that's overstepping. It's not, I interrupted. But I need to understand why. Why my family? Luna was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a worn photograph. She handed it to me without explanation. It showed a young girl, perhaps 7 or 8, standing between 2 adults on what appeared to be a hiking trail. They were all smiling, the sun creating halos around their heads. That was taken 2 days before they died, Luna said softly. Car accident. A drunk driver. I looked up at her, suddenly understanding. You were alone. She nodded. My grandmother raised me, and she was wonderful. But I spent years angry at the world, at my parents for leaving, at myself for surviving. Until a school counselor took interest in me. She helped me understand that it wasn't my fault, that it was okay to be happy again. Her eyes met mine. Your children are at a critical age, Mr. Reynolds. How they process grief now will shape who they become. And what about me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. How am I doing with my grief, in your professional opinion? Her answer changed everything. You haven't even begun to grieve, she said gently. You've been running from it. And in doing so, you've been running from them too. The truth of her words struck me like lightning. I felt exposed, vulnerable in a way I hadn't allowed myself to be since Caroline's death. For a moment, I wanted to retreat back into the safety of my wealth and work. To remind this woman that she was just an employee who had overstepped. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I cried. And Luna Alvarez, a woman I barely knew, did the bravest thing anyone had done for me in years. She simply sat with me in my pain, neither trying to fix it nor run from it. What I didn't realize then was that someone else was witnessing this moment, someone whose reaction would threaten everything Luna had built with my children, and the fragile connection beginning to form between us. Because while I thought I controlled everything in my life, I was about to learn that some things, the most important things, can't be bought, sold, or controlled. They can only be felt. Before I continue, be kind to subscribe to this channel to support me. People like me are men who build empires, learn to guard our vulnerabilities like dragons guard treasure. We convince ourselves that emotions are inefficiencies, weaknesses to be eliminated. That night with Luna, I'd shattered that carefully constructed facade, and I woke the next morning feeling both lighter and terrified. I found Luna in the kitchen preparing breakfast, humming softly as she worked. She acknowledged me with a simple nod, no trace of pity or judgment in her eyes. It was as if our moment of raw truth had been sealed away, a private understanding between us. I've been thinking, I said, accepting the coffee she offered. The children should see more of the world than just this penthouse and their private school. What would you suggest? Luna's face brightened. They've been asking about the botanical gardens. Alexander is particularly interested in the butterfly conservatory. That afternoon, for the first time in years, I cancelled board meetings and investor calls. My assistant, Victoria, who had been with me since before the triplets were born, couldn't hide her shock. "Cancel everything," she repeated. "James, you haven't missed a Thursday strategy session in 7 years. Hanover is flying in specifically to meet with you about the Shanghai acquisition. Tell him something came up. A family matter." Victoria's perfect composure slipped for just a moment. "Family matter? Are the children all right?" "They're fine. Better than fine, actually. I'm taking them to the botanical gardens." A flicker of something, concern, perhaps, or confusion, crossed her features. Victoria had been my right hand through everything: the meteoric rise of my company, my whirlwind romance with Caroline, the birth of the triplets, and the devastating loss that followed. In many ways, she'd managed not just my business but my entire life in the aftermath of Caroline's death. "I see," she said finally. "And will Ms. Alvarez be accompanying you?" The way she said Luna's name caught my attention. "Yes." "Why?" Victoria arranged her features into a neutral expression. "No reason. I'll reschedule everything. Enjoy your afternoon, James." I should have paid more attention to that moment, to the subtle warning in her tone. But I was too caught up in the prospect of a real outing with my children, something so normal for most parents but extraordinarily rare for me. The botanical gardens were a revelation. Watching my children explore the world beyond our luxury prison broke something open inside me. Emma, typically so reserved, ran ahead on the paths, pointing out different flowers. Christopher meticulously read every placard, storing away knowledge like the little scientist he was becoming. And Alexander, my silent, troubled Alexander, stood transfixed in the butterfly house as a monarch landed on his outstretched finger. "Look, Daddy," he whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. "It trusts me." Luna hung back, giving us space while remaining close enough to offer gentle guidance. When Christopher became overwhelmed by the sensory experience of the rainforest exhibit, she knew exactly how to calm him with deep breathing exercises. When Emma scraped her knee, Luna produced a bandage from her seemingly magical bag without making a fuss. It was the most peaceful I'd felt since Caroline died. Watching Luna with my children, I realized she possessed something no amount of money could buy: an intuitive understanding of what they needed, emotionally and developmentally. She nurtured them not as fragile creatures to be pitied but as resilient young humans finding their way through grief. That evening, after tucking the children in myself, a ritual I'd avoided for too long, I found Luna preparing to leave for her night classes. "Thank you," I said simply. "For today. For everything you've been doing. They're amazing children, Mr. Reynolds. They just needed someone to see them." The implication hung in the air: they needed their father to see them. "James," I corrected. "Please call me James when we're not in front of the staff." She smiled, a genuine warmth reaching her eyes. "James, then. I should go. My developmental psychology professor doesn't accept helping billionaires reconnect with their children as an excuse for tardiness." I laughed, a real laugh, the kind I'd almost forgotten I was capable of. "I could write you a note." "I'll manage." She shouldered her worn backpack. "Oh, I left the memory jar on your desk. The children wanted you to read some of their memories of their mother tonight. If you feel ready." The jar. In the joy of the day, I'd almost forgotten about it. "I'm not sure I am ready," I admitted. Luna's expression softened. "Grief isn't linear, James. There's no already. There's just showing up for it, a little at a time." After she left, I sat alone in my study, the colorful jar of paper slips before me. With trembling hands, I pulled one out. In Emma's careful handwriting, Mommy used to call me her sunshine girl and say my smile could melt Antarctica. Another, dictated by Alexander and written in Luna's flowing script: "I remember when Mom let me sleep in her and Dad's bed during the thunderstorm and told me that thunder was just the clouds playing bowling." Christopher's precise lettering: "Mom knew all the constellations and showed us Orion's belt on the camping trip." Memory after memory poured out, moments I'd pushed away because they hurt too much. But mixed with the pain was something else, something healing. Caroline lived on in our children, not just in their features but in the small moments they treasured. I was so absorbed that I didn't hear Victoria enter until she cleared her throat. "I didn't realize you were still here," I said, hastily wiping my eyes. Victoria had known me for 15 years, through every high and low. She'd never seen me cry, not even at Caroline's funeral, where I'd stood stoic, 3 toddlers clinging to my legs. "James," she said, her voice uncharacteristically gentle, "I'm concerned." "About what?" She approached my desk, eyeing the memory jar with suspicion. "About Ms. Alvarez's influence on you and the children. I've been doing some research." "Research?" "On Luna." Victoria nodded. "It's my job to protect you and your interests." And something about her story didn't sit right with me. The timing of her appearance, her background. "What are you suggesting?" She placed a folder on my desk. "She's not who she claims to be, James. And I'm afraid she's manipulating you at a vulnerable time." I stared at the folder, dread pooling in my stomach. "What is this?" "Evidence," Victoria said firmly. "Luna Alvarez has been hiding something significant from you, something that changes everything about her relationship with your children. And with you." My hand hovered over the folder. In that moment, I faced a choice, to trust the woman who'd been by my professional side for 15 years, or the one who'd awakened something in my children, and in me, in just a few weeks. I opened the folder. What I discovered inside shattered the fragile new world we were building and forced me to question everything I thought I knew about trust, truth, and what my children really needed. Because Luna Alvarez wasn't just hiding something from me. She was hiding something from herself. And the revelation would test not just my capacity for forgiveness, but my understanding of what it truly means to heal. The contents of Victoria's folder lay spread across my desk like evidence at a crime scene. Photographs, documents, newspaper clippings, all pointing to a truth I wasn't prepared for. Luna Alvarez had not randomly applied to be my children's maid. According to Victoria's investigation, Luna had been a student at the university where Caroline taught child psychology before leaving academia to raise our children. Not just any student, Caroline had been Luna's mentor, the professor who'd encouraged her to pursue grief counseling after recognizing Luna's own unhealed trauma. There were emails between them, academic papers they'd collaborated on. A photograph of a younger Luna standing beside Caroline at a psychology department function, both smiling. Caroline's arm was around Luna's shoulders in a gesture of pride. "She never mentioned knowing Caroline," I said, my voice hollow. "Why would she hide this?" Victoria's expression was a mixture of vindication and genuine concern. "There's more, James. After Caroline's death, Luna appears to have become obsessed. She switched her entire focus to childhood grief. She wrote her master's thesis on helping children process the loss of a parent." Victoria tapped a document. Her case study was on triplets who lost their mother in a car accident. My stomach dropped. She used my children as research subjects without my knowledge. I don't know if her thesis was directly based on your children or if she changed her research focus because of what happened to Caroline and then sought out your children. Either way, she deliberately inserted herself into your lives under false pretenses. The betrayal cut deep. In just a few weeks, Luna had become essential to us, to me. I'd begun to trust her, to depend on her insight. I'd even started to feel something I couldn't yet name when she was near. And now this revelation painted everything in a different light. Had her interest in the children been genuine care or academic curiosity? Had her support of my grief been sincere or calculated manipulation? "What do you want to do?" Victoria asked quietly. I stared at the memory jar, now seeming like a prop in an elaborate deception. "I need to speak with her." "Alone?" Victoria nodded. "I'll arrange it for tomorrow morning, before the children wake up." But fate had other plans. That night, Emma woke screaming from a nightmare, something that hadn't happened in months. When I rushed to her room, I found Luna already there, holding my trembling daughter. "Sure, Sunshine Girl, you're safe," Luna murmured, using the nickname I'd only just learned Caroline had given Emma. The nickname recorded in the memory jar. Emma clung to Luna. I dreamed Mommy was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear her. "Maybe she was just saying she loves you," Luna suggested gently. "That never stops, you know. Love doesn't end when people leave us." The tenderness in her voice, the genuine care in her eyes as she comforted my daughter, it didn't match the calculating academic Victoria's evidence suggested. I stepped back into the hallway, my mind racing. When Luna emerged from Emma's room 10 minutes later, she startled at the sight of me. "Mr. Reynolds, James, I'm sorry if I overstepped." I heard her crying, "Anne. You knew my wife," I interrupted, my voice low to avoid waking the other children. The color drained from Luna's face. Don't lie to me." "Not anymore." I gestured toward my study. "We need to talk." In the harsh light of my study, Luna seemed smaller, her confident demeanor replaced by visible apprehension. "Victoria investigated you," I said, pushing the folder across my desk. "You were Caroline's student. You've been researching childhood grief using my family as your template. Was any of what you told me true?" Luna's hands trembled as she looked at the evidence of her deception. "All of it was true," she whispered. "My parents did die when I was 7. My grandmother did raise me. I do have a master's in child psychology." She looked up, her eyes pleading. "And everything I've done with your children came from a place of genuine care. But you deliberately sought out this job. You manipulated your way into our lives." "Yes," she admitted. "But not for the reasons you think." Luna reached into her bag and pulled out a worn leather journal. "Caroline gave me this when I graduated. She was more than my professor, she saved my life. When I was in her intro to psychology class, I was self-destructing. The anniversary of my parents' death hit me hard that year. I missed an exam, stopped turning in assignments. Instead of failing me, Caroline reached out. She recognized the signs of unresolved grief. She pushed the journal toward me. She helped me work through my pain. She became my mentor, encouraged me to use my experience to help others." Luna's voice broke. "When I heard about the accident, about you and the children, I wanted to help. It was my way of honoring her." I opened the journal. Inside, in Caroline's familiar handwriting, was an inscription. "Luna, your pain has shaped you, but it doesn't define you. Use it to light the way for others. With love and pride, Caroline." "Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" I asked, my anger giving way to confusion. "Would you have hired me if I had? A graduate student with a personal connection to your late wife, claiming to want to help your children." Luna shook her head. "You would have seen it as intrusive or manipulative. And maybe it was. But once I met your children, once I saw their pain, and yours, I couldn't walk away." I studied her face, searching for deceit and finding only remorse and something that looked remarkably like love, not for me, but for my children. For the legacy of the woman who had helped her heal. "The memory jar," I said suddenly. "The stories about Caroline. You knew those details already." "Some," Luna admitted. "Caroline talked about your family constantly. She was so proud of all of you. But most of those memories came directly from the children. I just helped them find the words." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of everything, my grief, my failures as a father, this complicated betrayal that somehow didn't feel like betrayal anymore. When I opened them again, Luna was standing, gathering her things. "I understand if you want me to leave," she said quietly. "I'll help you find someone qualified to continue working with the children. Someone without complications. Is that what you want?" I asked. "What I want doesn't matter. I came here with good intentions but built everything on a lie. I crossed professional boundaries. I let myself care too much." Her voice caught. "I let myself care about you too. The admission hung in the air between us. "Stay," I said, surprising myself. Luna stared at me. "What?" "Stay," I repeated more firmly. "The children need you." And I hesitated, then committed to the truth. "I need you too. James, I don't think you understand. I understand that grief has made both of us do things we wouldn't normally do. I understand that Caroline would approve of what you've done here, deception and all, because you've helped her children in ways I couldn't." I stood, moving around the desk toward her. "And I understand that sometimes the things we think we want, success, wealth, control, aren't what we need." "What do you need?" Luna asked softly. "Someone who sees me. All of me, even the broken parts. Someone who isn't afraid of my grief or my failures." I took her hand. "Someone who reminds me of what matters. The children." "Yes, the children. But also me. I've been half alive since Caroline died. You didn't just help my children begin healing. You helped me remember how to live." 3 months later, Luna moved out of the staff quarters and into her own apartment. Not because she was leaving us, but because we both agreed that healing takes time, and some boundaries were necessary, for the children's sake and our own. She continued working with the triplets, now officially as their grief counselor and tutor rather than their maid. I cut back my hours at the office, delegating more to Victoria, who, after her initial suspicion, had come to respect Luna's impact on our family. I was present for bedtime stories, for science experiments, for the small moments that money can't buy and time can't replace. On the anniversary of Caroline's death, instead of hiding in my office with a bottle of scotch, I took the children and Luna to Caroline's favorite place, a small lake upstate where we'd once vacationed. We released paper lanterns onto the water, each carrying messages to the woman who connected us all in ways we never could have imagined. As I watched the lights drift across the dark water, Emma slipped her hand into mine. "Daddy," she whispered, "do you think Mommy sent Luna to us?" I looked at Luna, who was helping Alexander write his message, her face illuminated by the soft glow of a lantern. She caught my gaze and smiled, a smile that carried understanding, forgiveness, and possibility. "Yes, Sunshine Girl," I said, using Caroline's nickname for our daughter. "I think she absolutely did. Because sometimes the things we lose lead us to what we need to find. Sometimes the lies we tell open doors to deeper truths. And sometimes, when we think we've seen it all, life surprises us with its capacity for healing, for second chances, for love that comes in unexpected packages. My name is James Reynolds. I am a billionaire who thought he had everything, until I lost what mattered most. And I am a father who thought he'd seen it all, until a young woman with a connection to my past showed me that the future was still waiting to be written. Not with wealth or power, but with the courage to be seen. To remember. To begin again. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. I've poured my heart into telling this story of grief, healing, and unexpected connections. If it touched your heart, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe for more stories that explore the depths of human experience. What did you think of James and Luna's story? Did you suspect Luna's connection to Caroline? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback means everything to me as a writer. Until next time, remember that sometimes our greatest healing comes from the most unexpected places.